So you want to work at Sephora. You've come to the right place because I'm going to be giving you all the ins and outs of the interview tips, interview questions, and so much more that actually got me my second interview while I was sitting in my first one. So let's jump right into it. Hey YouTube, welcome to my tube. I'm sure a lot of you don't know this, but I actually have a job at Sephora. I'm just a girl. I have been working there for 5 months, so I'm fairly new to the position, so the information is very fresh in my mind. I know exactly the questions they asked me and everything I said to respond to them. So I got you with all that information in just a little. I had my first interview in February, it was February 22nd, and my second interview was February 28th. And what I said in the intro was not a lie, and it was not clickbait or me trying to get you to stay for this video. I literally got offered my second interview while I was sitting in my first interview, February 22nd. And when the interview finished, she literally sat there and said, I want you to come in for the next interview to meet the next person so that we can go ahead and get you hired and get you in here as soon as possible. I do want to start off by saying good luck because it is a very exciting process. It is very nerve-wracking going in for an interview, not just for Sephora, for just about any job position, but I promise you, just come in being yourself and following the tips that I give you in this video, and the job is more than 99% guaranteed to be yours. I also want to mention, just remember that God's plan is always perfect, and if this isn't something that God has planned for your future or doesn't see you benefiting in some sort of way from this position, then you will not be getting it. But that is outside of our own hands, and that is outside of our own jurisdiction. So it is not something that I would sit here and worry about, but also not something that I want to plant in your head. I want you to go into this being super positive, being optimistic as possible, and thinking, I already have this job is mine. So I do have a few talking points that I want to hit with you guys because they're very important. So I'm going to be adding timestamps in my description so that you guys can go ahead and check out the different talking points as I go, especially if you come back to this video so that you don't have to watch everything all over again. I'm making it easier for you, so those will be in the description. Make sure you check those out. My first point is dress to impress. And I know this might seem a little redundant, like obviously girl, I'm not gonna come in dressed up like whatever to an interview, but you would be surprised how many times I've seen people come in for interviews at Sephora now that I work there, and I've seen them come in tank tops, in jeans, in sandals, just not professional wear. And remember, when you're coming in for this interview, you're meeting with who's going to be your assistant manager and your manager once you're employed. So your first impression to them is everything. Come in wearing slacks or a dress, a long enough dress, maybe to the knees, maybe a little bit over the knees, nothing too short, a dress shirt. If you want to wear a blazer, you can, but it's not necessary. I literally wore an all black dress shirt to my first interview, and my second interview, I did wear a tank top, but the secret to that is that I put on a blazer over it so it looked a little bit more professional, and I also wore it with some slacks. I never went in wearing jeans, and I always went in wearing dress shoes as well. Your first impression matters. I cannot emphasize that enough. Like I said, remember who you're meeting with. These are people who are looking at you and are trying to picture you in Sephora, already working there in a retail luxury store. Along with dressing professionally, I am going to say to wear all black, and I'm sure you've heard this before, especially if you've been doing your research for this interview. Just about everyone says come in wearing all black, and the reason behind that is because the assistant manager and the manager that you're going to be interviewing with, they want to picture you in the Sephora uniform. And the Sephora uniform is exactly that. The full black shirt, black pants, black shoes. So just make sure you're wearing the all black professional wear, because that can for sure guarantee that they're going to at least try to picture you inside of Sephora, which is already step one into getting the A-OK from them. I also want to mention, some people say that you have to come in with a full face of makeup, beat your face to the gods. It is not necessary, let me tell you. If you're not someone who naturally wears makeup all the time, you don't have to come in wearing a face full of makeup, because the reality is that when you come into the store, once you're hired, you're probably not gonna wear that full face of makeup that you did for your interview. So why come in showing them something that they're not gonna get for the rest of the time that you're employed? Personally, I did do a full face of makeup, but that's because I already enjoy doing it. And if you don't know that, just go check out my channel, and while you're there, make sure you subscribe, because I will be doing a whole lot more about Sephora and also a whole lot of other beauty and vlog related videos. But aside the point, I literally enjoy doing my makeup. I enjoy the beauty aspect of it, so I did come in with a full face of makeup. But I know other workers at Sephora and my personal coworkers and friends that went into the interview not wearing a full face of makeup, and they're standing there with the Sephora job. So don't feel pressured, you don't have to do it. My next point is research before going in. And you're obviously sitting watching this video because that's exactly what you're doing. But aside from researching the interview and how it's gonna go and questions and tips and all of that, make sure you're researching the location that you're applying and interviewing for. And I say this because not every Sephora has the same type of clients. For example, the clients that local Sephoras have are usually those from around the neighborhood, those that live around that Sephora. In Las Vegas, the Sephoras that are on the strip, you get random people every day, different cultures, different backgrounds, because you're on the strip, you're at a resort. You have people coming in drunk, you have people coming in sober, you have kids, you literally have a mix of different people coming in. But you're not getting that same crowd at your local Sephora because they're not in the same location. So just make sure that the location that you're applying for and the location that you're interviewing for is a crowd that you're okay dealing with and being around, because these are people that you're going to be around essentially every day when you go to work. Another thing that I would make sure to know is the Sephora mission statement and the Sephora values, so that you can include it in the answers to some of the questions they're going to ask you. The mission statement, I'm going to read off for you because I want to get it exactly right. So make sure you get a pen and paper, you open your notes app, you get ready to write it down somewhere so that you have it ready. The mission statement is creating a welcoming beauty shopping experience for all and inspire fearlessness in our community. That is literally everything behind Sephora that you need to know. And then the values I will put along here, because it is a few different values that you just want to mention here and there and throw them into your answers. But also just keep them in mind, because these are things that they're going to look for once you get hired. They want to look for that initiative. They want to look for the passion. They want to look that you're serving the values that Sephora's mission statement and that Sephora's brand carries and has carried for all the years that they've been open. Aside from that, you're obviously gonna want to watch videos like these, like the one you're watching now. Watch this one, watch other people's, watch people who have been fired or have left Sephora because maybe they have different information that you weren't aware of. Literally watch as many videos as you can. It can be on YouTube, it could be on TikTok, anywhere. Just make sure you're getting enough information where you're like, okay, this is something that I want to do and I feel prepared enough to go into this interview and I know I'm gonna rock it. But also with that, I want to mention, don't overdo it, because it literally will be so overwhelming hearing so much information at once. But if you prepare enough and don't overdo it, you're going to be in the most balanced state for this interview, and that's exactly where you want to be. First tip in this video is going to be this one. And this is a tip that no one gives because I feel like barely anyone does it, but it's so smart to do it, and I'm gonna tell you why. The first thing I did when I went in for my interview for Sephora was I walked around, because I got there with enough time, and I talked to some of the employees that were around the location where I work at. And I literally just asked them simple questions like, what do you like about working at Sephora? What's your favorite item? I'm here for an interview. Is there a tip you want to give me before I go in? I would really appreciate it. And literally, because they've already gone through the process, the information they give you is so valuable that it's the most important out of all the research you do, because it's coming from the mouth of somebody that works there currently. And I'm not saying that some of these videos that you watch, like this one, isn't from current employees, because like I said, I work there as we speak. But that doesn't mean that my experience was anybody else's experience, and your experience might not even be like mine. But just having that little bit of background information from someone else that's there currently in the store is top tier information, top tier research. And that's my first tip, which brings me into the section all about my tips for the interview. So my first tip is be yourself. There is nobody like you on this planet. Even if you try to be like somebody else, you're not going to be them. You might be similar in certain things, like how you do things, how you do your makeup, how you dress, all these other things, but your personality is only yours. Nobody can mimic that. Nobody can replace that. Nobody can try to be like that except you. So most importantly, be yourself. That is literally what they want, what they're looking for. Just because you're at an interview doesn't mean that you have to come in using these big words or sounding like you have a PhD or all these other things, because if that's not who you are naturally, then once you get hired, the managers, assistant managers, and your coworkers will all see past the facade, and they're not necessarily going to like that. And I know everyone says, come in with a positive energy, come in doing this, come in doing that. And if that is you, absolutely come in doing that. But if that is not who you are, I'm not gonna sit here and tell you to come in and do a forced personality, because the reality is that they will most likely look right past it. And just from the answers you give, they're going to know if this is your true personality or not. My next tip is that you don't have to have makeup experience. I know sometimes, even coming into Sephora as a client, it can be a little bit scary because maybe I don't have all the makeup experience and I don't want to sound dumb, or I don't know enough about products and I don't want to sound dumb. And the fear is always that, sounding dumb or embarrassing ourselves in front of these people. But you don't need to have makeup experience, because the reality is that during your training, they're going to give you all the background. They're going to teach you about the different brands for hair, skin, and makeup, and anything else that they carry in the store. Fragrance, they're gonna teach you literally everything. If you have some sort of knowledge about it, great, awesome, use it to your advantage, put it in some answers. But if you don't, do not feel pressured. I'm not telling you to sit there and tell them like, I don't have makeup experience, I don't know what I'm doing, because I'm not saying that either. I'm just saying that you don't have to mention it or let them know, because again, in your training, you are going to get all the information you need to be successful at the job. And with that, you don't need to have brand knowledge either, because all these brands have different values, different points that they want you to hit. And if you try to learn all of that before coming into the interview, it's going to be too much. Like I said, all of that will come in your training. Even to this day, I've been working at Sephora for 5 months, and if there's brand reps in the store, you can do trainings with them and they'll tell you more about the product, they'll tell you more about the brand, things that didn't come up in your training. But good thing you have the brand rep that knows about the brand to tell you, because that way, if a client ever comes in asking about this specific brand, you have the information from the training and from what the brand rep told you to give your client. And that, nothing tops that. And my last tip is have 1 or 2 questions to ask at the end of your interview. And that goes for any interview, not just the Sephora one. And this is because most people, when they go into an interview, they end the interview saying, I don't have any questions. Or if they ask you, do you have any questions? You say, no, I'm okay. Like, that's not something memorable. Meanwhile, if you stand out and you're the one person out of 4, 5, 6, or more people that were interviewed that one day that had a question, they're going to remember you for the person who had the question, which makes them more likely to be like, oh, amazing, they're interested. This is someone that I want to talk more about. Let me invite them for the second interview so that I can talk with them more, so that I can speak with them in more detail, more deeply about the job, about the position, get to know them better. And that is exactly what you want. A good question to ask at the end of a Sephora interview is, can you tell me about the team that I'm working with? Because that way it shows, again, that interest in wanting to know about the people you're working with, what it's like, the environment. Another great question to end the interview with is, what are some challenges that this position has? Because again, you want to know as much information because it shows interest, and also to make your final decision on whether this is something that you truly want to go for, the answers that are given from the assistant manager and the manager are going to help you make that decision, and again, give you that little bit of extra information that you might be missing from the research that was done before. And the last question that I always suggest asking is, how am I going to be evaluated in my position? And this is important because Sephora does evaluate you in a few different tiers, but that's for a whole other video. So again, make sure you subscribe because I'm going to be talking all about that in that video. On to my next point, which is finally the questions that they asked me and the answers I gave. So I'm not gonna lie, they are going to start with the generic, tell me about yourself. And I personally did practice my answer before I went in for the interview, just because I'm the type of person that when you ask me to tell me about yourself, a million things go through my mind because I am so many things in one as a whole. My personality is a lot. So I like to pre-practice, maybe something you should do, my answer when it comes to that question. So for tell me about yourself, I started off a little quirky, and if you know me, this is something that I'm really into. So I said, I'm a Pisces. I'm also a dog and cat mom, which always is a spark for a conversation because people are like, oh, you have a dog and a cat. Like, how are you, like, how do they coexist? And then that leads into more conversation, which allows them to see more of your personality. And after I went in with those two things, I gave them a little bit about my personality. I said, no, but in all seriousness, I am somebody who's very passionate, very dedicated. I absolutely love makeup. I have a YouTube channel where I actually enjoy making videos on beauty tutorials and vlog lifestyle things and a whole bunch of different beauty related videos. And I like to share that with the audience because I feel like that's a chance for everyone to feel beautiful and for a chance for everyone to learn a little bit about makeup and a little bit about me. And which she proceeded to ask me about my YouTube channel. So again, the little things you mentioned, be prepared to answer more about them because they are going to want to know more because again, key point, personality is everything to them. And like I mentioned in the beginning of the video, you will be meeting with your assistant manager and your actual manager. The next question they asked me was, why Sephora? Which takes me back to my second point about the research. This is when you're going to include the mission statement or some values or something about the Sephora environment that really inspires you, or something about Sephora that you feel is so welcoming and all these things, because that's what they want to hear and that's what Sephora is all about. My answer, I started with a small joke. I just said, so I'm already here all the time, so I might as well work here too. But in all honesty, I really appreciate how welcoming everyone is. As soon as you come in, everyone's ready and eager to help you out, and they show that initiative in helping you choose the products that are perfect for you when it comes to skincare and makeup. And most importantly, if you don't like something, they have a million recommendations ready to give you at hand. Just with that, I let them know that when I step foot into Sephora, I feel included, that I feel welcome, that their employees are showing those values that they're enforcing on them, and they're showing that initiative that are part of the values. See what I mean by including a little bit of the mission statement and a little bit of the values in your answers, because again, they're looking for that also. My next question was, what customer service experience do I have? And that question might not be asked to everyone depending your resume. My resume personally has a lot of very professional jobs in it. So of course they were questioning like, okay, what type of experience do you have that will make me feel like this position is right for you? So in that answer, I talked about my experience as a student ambassador when I was an undergrad, because that was the customer service experience that I had, because people came into Barry all the time looking for someone to help, or you know, just about anything really. So I talked about that experience. If you have previous retail experience, of course you talk about that. I mentioned how different people came into the school all the time with different personalities, sometimes upset, sometimes happy, because of a million different reasons, and how I was able to help them. I'm not gonna go in detail for that just because it's literally talking about my Barry experience, and that's a whole other conversation. But just like get the gist about the things that I'm telling you and put that into your own experience. Then of course they have to throw in a little fun question. So they asked me, what's my favorite makeup product? Now, going back to my point about you don't have to know makeup, you don't have to wear makeup. If you don't wear makeup, do not feel like you have to come in and say, oh, I love House Labs foundation, or I love Hourglass concealer, or any of that, because you don't. It's okay. You can just say, personally, I'm not much of a makeup girl, but I do love this skincare brand, insert skincare name, and you tell them what you love about it. For me, I do have a makeup product that I love from Sephora. Well, many. One that I chose for this interview question was Urban Decay's Perversion Mascara. To which she asked me, why do you feel that way about this product? And I said, I absolutely love doing my lashes, and my lashes are kind of like my statement piece, something that I never leave my house without. So that mascara always makes sure that my lashes are long and pretty, and that I feel my most confident, and I absolutely love and swear by it. Literally, again, giving a little bit of that mission statement where I feel confident and I feel beautiful with a product that Sephora has. And it wasn't a lie, I really do swear by that mascara. I absolutely love it, and I recommend it every chance I get. So now that they included that little fun question, it was kind of their way of transitioning into how you're going to do a multi-world basket experience for the client. So the next question they asked me was how I would include other products to sell for a client that's coming in for one. Part of the Sephora mission is getting people to buy a multi-world basket, which basically just means you get someone to buy skincare, makeup, and if you can, fragrance, but you're tying it all back to the main thing the person came in for. So in this one, I had to create kind of a scenario for her where I told her, let's say someone's coming in for foundation. I would suggest them maybe a primer or a setting spray to go along with that. And with that, I would suggest a skincare product that would help them get that flawless look. For example, maybe they want a really good moisturizer that they can use under their primer, or maybe they came in for a different product in the store. Maybe they came in for skincare and their concern was under eye bags. I would get them their eye cream and any other suggested product that I have for them, and then I would tell them, have you ever tried a concealer, because that would really help cover your eye bags. Things like that is what they want to hear, because that's essentially what you're going to have to be doing when you work there as an employee, just so again you can build those multi-world baskets. The next question they asked me was, how does Sephora align with my future goals? And that's just a very fancy way of saying, what are my goals with Sephora in 5 to 10 years? Because they don't want to hire someone that's going to be gone in a week or 2 or 3 or in a month, because then they have to go through that whole hiring process again. So my answer was, it really aligns with what I plan for my future, because like I mentioned, I have a YouTube channel dedicated to beauty related topics, and having access to learning more about beauty, whether it be makeup, skincare, fragrance, all of that, really is gonna allow me to grow my YouTube channel. And also because I have a background in communications, then it makes it easier for me to communicate all the information that I learn about the brands and different products to the clients and to my YouTubers that watch me. And this time I didn't mention anything about their mission statement or values, but that's okay. You don't have to include something in every answer, but where there's a space to, you definitely should. The next question they asked me was, tell me about a time you had to work with an upset or angry client. And the reason they asked me is because of where the location I'm working at is. Where my location is, we do get some upset, some angry clients very randomly, not often, but they obviously want to know if you know how to deal with these people that come in with this personality. They don't want to have someone who A, could be rude, or B, could be understanding and try to solve the person's problem in an understanding way. So I gave them, again, another little story about when I worked at Barry. Again, not something that I want to mention in this video, but think about your experiences with someone angry or someone upset, or how you would handle it so that you're prepared for that question. Which again takes me back to what I was saying about researching the location you're working at, because that will also be a base as to where the interview questions will go toward, depending the type of people that come into the store. And lastly, they asked me a lot of resume questions just because, like I mentioned, I have a lot of very professional experience. So they were almost wondering, like, why is she coming into retail? And of course, I had to tell them about it. They might ask you about different positions you've had. They might ask you about your education. They might ask you about a whole bunch of different things. Another good thing to know is the difference in positions offered at Sephora, vocabulary, and other mini Sephora world things that I will be making videos on. So make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out, and that you can come back to look at the playlist once you're hired as a Sephora employee. With that being said, I want to say good luck. You're going to rock it. I always say what is meant to be will be, and if this is part of God's plan, so be it. Be positive, and congratulations on becoming part of the Sephora family. We are so happy to have you here, and be ready to splurge, because let me tell you about that employee discount. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please like, share, and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.